There's a lot of people that sell stuff on eBay, but to be honest, most of the listings totally suck because the sellers are missing out on the most money that they can get because they're not optimizing their listings correctly. So in this video, I'm going to teach you my 5 steps on how to sell stuff on eBay so that you can get the most money from your listings, even if you're a beginner. And if you stick around till the end, I've got a cool little bonus tip that'll teach you how to get more feedback from your buyers. So just stick around and you'll find out how. Now, I've sold stuff on eBay for about 5 years now, so that doesn't make me an eBay guru by any means, but I can say that I am an expert when it comes to selling normal items to normal people. Because overall, I've sold hundreds of items on eBay just as a normal seller, so I do know what I'm talking about. So whether you're a beginner or if you've done eBay for a while, I want you to watch this video because I'm going to teach you how to optimize your listings so that you can make the most money you can on eBay. Now, if you just stumbled across this channel, I'm Jason with Honest Finance, and I make a lot of videos on different topics that'll give your life and your finances more value. So if you are interested in this type of content, feel free to subscribe or at least give this video a like. And now, on to optimizing your eBay listings. Now, I'm going to break up eBay selling into 5 different parts so that you can follow along. I've broken it down into research, title and description, the photography, the selling format, and then the shipping. And I'm going to teach you how to optimize all of these different areas, so pay attention, and we'll start with the first one, which is your research. Now, I don't need to elaborate much here, but you do need to do a little bit of research before you decide to list an item. You need to get an idea of what the item's selling for so that you can tell if it's even worth listing the item. A few months ago, I found a Marilyn Monroe doll in its original box, so I instantly thought that it was going to be worth a ton on eBay. Well, I quickly did some research and found out that it was only worth like 15 to 30 bucks, so in my opinion, that really wasn't worth very much at all. I mean, 30 bucks is just easy cash, but you've still got to understand that it takes time to list an item, and eBay's still going to charge their fees. So just do a little bit of research before you list an item, that way you can actually tell if it's worth it or not. As a general rule, if I'm listing stuff on their own, I'm only going to do that if they're worth about $40 or more, because then it's worth it to me. And if they're worth less than the 40 bucks, then I'll just wait till I have a bunch of that kind of stuff so that I can group them all together, or I'll just wait until I can batch them at the same time. So for instance, if you've got a bunch of DVDs that aren't worth very much money, then it's probably better to just group those together and sell them as one listing. And if you're batching stuff, that just means that you're going to list a bunch of different separate things at the same time so that your time management is a lot more efficient. Batching items will also make shipping a lot easier too, because if you run them all as auctions, then they're going to end at the same time, therefore they're going to ship at the same time. Now, once you've done your research and you know for sure that you want to sell the item, then it's time to work on my next step, which is the title and the description. This is really easy to do, but I still need you to pay attention because I feel like there's a lot of listings on eBay where people do not follow any of these rules. I'm going to be using this older Apple Watch 1 as an example so that you guys can make sense of what I'm talking about. If it were me, I'd list it as an Apple Watch Series 1 42mm Sport in space gray that's in fair condition. So why exactly did I title it like this? Well, I titled it on purpose like that because you want the viewers to know exactly what they're buying before they actually have to click on the item. I mean, think of it like this. If you were looking for a TV, wouldn't you want to know the size of the TV before you had to click on it to find out? If you're looking for something on eBay, it just sucks to have to guess what certain specs are because the last thing you want to do is to go into the description only to find out that it's not even the size that you wanted in the first place. Trust me, you'll get a lot more bids and traffic on the item as long as you title it with the specs that are important. Now, you can also list the specs and all that kind of stuff inside of eBay, and I would recommend doing that because that way if the buyer's using a filter, then he can find your stuff as well. And that's just because the more information you have in your listing, the easier it is for eBay to serve it to those people that are looking for it. Now, as far as the description goes, you're going to want to put your title in that again, and then you're going to want to give an honest description of the condition that the item's in. I'd say something like it's a used Apple Watch with plenty of scratches from normal use, but it works just fine. You can elaborate as much as you'd like about the item, but just make sure that you're being honest about it and tell it like it is. And I'd also list exactly what's going to be shipping to the customer so that they know what they're going to be getting. So in the case with the Apple Watch, I just tell them that I have a charger, but I don't have a box, and that's exactly what's going to be shipping, the watch and the charger. And then if you do have the serial number, I'd write that in the description as well. That way you can protect yourself and the buyer from any scams. Now, if you want to add in the description from the manufacturer, go ahead and do that, but just make sure it's from the manufacturer and not a reseller. So if you were selling a GoPro, you can't just hop onto Cabela's website and steal their copy. You have to make sure to go to GoPro's website. That way you get the correct copy that you can use on your eBay description. Now onto the photography, which is so easy, but I feel like a lot of beginners on eBay don't do this right. Now, you don't need to be a fancy photographer to sell stuff on eBay, but you've just got to make sure that your photos aren't underexposed and that they're not blurry either. Basically, your photos just need to show everything that's going to be shipping to the customer without a distracting background. Just remember that a lot of the stuff we buy on eBay is used, so you don't want to get the vibe like the jacket you're buying was used on a farm, all because the photo was taken on a bale of hay. Just make sure to take all of your photos on a white or a neutral background and then give it enough light so that everybody can see what you're trying to sell. You also need to take pictures of every single angle of the item. That way the buyer can see exactly what's on each side if that matters to them. Now, once you've taken all the photos that you need for the item, just make sure to take a picture of the serial number if you can find it, because that's going to protect you against scams. Because trust me, it's a lot harder to get scammed on eBay when you have authenticity proof in your photos and your description. Because if you bought my Apple Watch and then you sent me back a broken one, I'd have proof that you were full of crap because the serial numbers wouldn't match. And buyers also like to see the serial numbers too, because that way they can check the date when it was manufactured and all that kind of stuff. eBay has both a cropping feature and an exposure feature, so feel free to use those if you're not too savvy with Photoshop. Now, I'm a professional studio photographer, and I will tell you right now that eBay does not care about fancy photos for the type of stuff that we're selling. You actually want to leave the images pretty candid on purpose, because if you take too nice of a photo, people are going to think that you stole them and that they're not the real images. Here's what my main photo would look like, and just make sure to crop it in as tight as you can, because what you're selling should take up all the space in the photos. The buyers just want to know exactly what they're looking at, and that is it. So just remember to take the photos on a white or a neutral background, make sure the exposure is good, and make sure that they're not blurry, and then crop in the image as tight as you can, and that is all you have to worry about. And make sure not to fix anything in Photoshop, because you're selling a used item, so you need to show it in as-is condition so that you're not lying to anyone. And now onto the selling format, which is really not that complicated if you just take this advice. There's basically two ways that you can sell your stuff on eBay, because you've got the buy it now and you've got the auction, and they're both really good in their own ways. But if you want to get the most money that you possibly can from your listings, then you're going to want to do a 7-day auction, because statistically, that one's going to get you the most cash. And just for kicks, I want to know which format you guys prefer to sell with. So just answer the question right here or go ahead and comment down below. Now, if you're in a hurry to sell your stuff, then I would use the buy it now option. But if you want to make the most money, then I would run the 7-day auction, which is what I'm going to be talking about. Plus, the good thing about running an auction is that if you list a bunch of different items, they're all going to end at the same time, which if you have a buy it now, you have no idea when they're going to be selling. And now here's the important stuff about running an auction, so pay attention. If you want your listing to get the most money and the most bids, then you're going to want to list the item for $1 with no reserve. And trust me, because this strategy does work, but only if the item is going to get bids. So with the Apple Watch, for an example, I know that that's going to get the bids that I need, so I would 100% list that at $1 with no reserve. Because if you end up with 0 bidders because your starting price is too high or you've got way too ridiculous of a reserve price, then that means that nobody is going to get notifications from eBay. You've got to understand that eBay gives automatic notifications to all of your bidders and watchers, so you've got to have as many of those as you can to get all of those notifications out. Because how in the world are you going to end up having a bidding war if you only have one bidder on your item? Trust me, you want eBay to send out those notifications to the bidders and the watchers, because that's free advertising for you. So like I said before, if you want to get as many bids as you can and you want to make the most money on your item, then start it at $1 and don't have a reserve. Now, if you legitimately feel like the item you're selling is not going to get very many bids and it's not going to get very much traffic, then I would just start it at a fair price that you're willing to settle with if that's all it sells for. So basically, if you end up with only one bidder on the item, then at least you'll get paid something. Because I actually had to sell a few items for just $1 because they only got one bid, and that totally sucked because they were worth a lot more than that. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you list an item for $1, just make sure it's going to get enough traffic. And if it doesn't, just list it for a price that you'd be willing to settle for. Now, if you want to get the best results on your auction, then you're going to want to be listing your auction on Sundays between 6 and 10 p.m. across the entire United States. I live in Utah, so I always list my stuff at 7 o'clock. That way in California it's 6, and then in New York it's 9 o'clock, so it makes it even. Now, the reason Sunday night is the perfect time to start your auctions is because it's going to end the next Sunday night, which is statistically the time when the most people are on eBay. Because think of it like this, if you got a pair of shoes on eBay that's going to end at 3 a.m., then nobody's going to be bidding on those shoes because most of the people that actually want them are probably asleep. And now into shipping, which is so simple, but I still need you to pay attention. And if you guys have made it this far into the video, could you please give it a like, because that's going to help me out tremendously. Thanks. Now, when it comes to shipping stuff on eBay, all you've got to do is have a fixed rate and then have it go economy. Now, the reason you want to go with a fixed rate shipping fee is because that way the buyers know exactly how much they're going to be paying in shipping. Nobody likes to guess how much they're going to have to pay for shipping, so just stick with a fixed rate fee and it makes it easier for everyone. And the cool thing about using the economy shipping is because you can go with any carrier that you prefer using. So that way if FedEx ended up being cheaper than UPS, then you could just choose them instead. Also, I've done some testing on running items for free shipping, and I am not convinced at all that it's any good for normal sellers like us. I've just found that running free shipping on your items just means that you're leaving money on the table because most people are willing to just pay a reasonable amount for shipping. So all you're going to want to do is just charge a fixed rate amount that's going to be easy to go anywhere in the country. Because on eBay, you have no idea where the buyer is going to live when you actually ship it. So you just have to have a fee that's going to be fair for anywhere in the country. Sometimes you'll make some money when you ship stuff and other times you won't. But the goal here is that you're just close. Now you can get shipping prices from eBay by giving them dimensions and weight and stuff like that. But overall, it's just going to take a little bit of practice to know how much to charge. Now the next thing about shipping is that you're going to want to put the item in the smallest box possible, but still keep it safe for the item. Because you're going to be charged by size and weight, so just make sure to keep it as small as you can. And also, if you buy a lot of stuff online, I would keep those boxes and shipping materials because you can use those on eBay and that's going to save you a lot of money. eBay does a great job at providing boxes and shipping materials and stuff like that if you want to buy them on your own. But if you've already got boxes at your house because you've ordered stuff online, then just use those instead because it's a lot cheaper. Because at the end of the day, eBay is going to charge you about 13% in fees. So you're going to want to keep things as cheap as you can so that you can make the most money. Now here's the bonus tip on how to get more feedback from your buyers, and it is so easy. All you have to do is put a physical note inside the box asking them to give you some feedback. Just say something like, hey, I'm new on eBay and I could use some feedback if you had a good experience with me. And if you didn't, just try to resolve it with me first. Trust me, leaving a note in the box is so much better than trying to get a hold of them online because it's real. So try this out and I guarantee you're going to get more feedback from your buyers, and it's so easy to do. Once again, I'm Jason with Honest Finance, and I make a lot of videos on different topics that'll give your life and your finances more value. So feel free to subscribe if you want to, or at least give this video a like. That's all.